Okay, we are on Daf Dalid Amud Bet, and we are, if you're following the art scroll, 4b3. Okay, so the Gemara now, after learning the back and forths about how each opinion says what he says, what's the basic outline is Edim Zomimim on money, Machloket. Rabbi Meir says you make them pay and you give them lashes. The Chachamim say, no, you only make him pay. The second opinion says, the second case in the Mishnah is, if they bear witness that the guy deserves lashes, Rabbi Meir says they get 80 lashes, and the Chachamim say 40. The logic, for each one of them was coming from where they learned the halachot from. So the Gemara says, okay, Rabbi Meir says that his understanding is that there's two different things that you're getting Malkut for, right? One thing you're getting Malkut for, the first thing you're getting Malkut for is you testified falsely. Lotana biracha et shaker. The second thing you're getting Malkut for is for Edim Zomimim. Okay? So, therefore, there's two separate things. You get punished twice. The Chachamim say, no, it says Kideh Rishato. Okay? The Gemara continues and says the same thing with the lashes. Same idea. You can only punish him. Rabbi Meir says, once for the Elotane B'Rachai Shaket, once for the Edim Zomimim. On that, the Chachamim say, no, we could only really get you once for both of those things. Okay, that was the outline of the Gemara thus far, so far. Okay, now the Gemara says as follows: B'Rabanan. Okay, so we just said that Rabbi Meir, who learns that there's two different problems, he gives you twice. The Chachamim only give it to you once. 1 second. They hold that you're only getting Malkut for Edim Zomimim, right? What do they do with the pasuk that says Lo ta'aneh b'reacha et shaker? So now you have a sin that was don't bear false witness. And what is the purpose of that sentence? If you see over here anyway, we have the punishment of Edim Zomimim. That's the Gemara's question. Answers the Gemara, that's the warning that therefore we could then punish you with in another pasuk, on the second pasuk. What's the Gemara's understanding at this point? We've mentioned this idea a few times. En onshin ela in ken mazhirin. Now that idea has an expression in the real world. So in other words, you punish someone when? When you warn them and you give them hatra'ah, which means you give them witnesses give them a warning and tell them you can't do the sin and this is the punishment if you do it. And he does it anyway. That's called hatra'ah, warning. However, there is a similar concept on the script level, on the Torah level. The Torah does not institute a punishment until the Torah told you before it gave you that punishment that what you're doing now is not allowed. So the Chachamim say, you know why we needed the commandment of don't bear false witness? Because where is the commandment that's going to get you in trouble for Edim Zomimim? You're saying that I wasn't there, I was somewhere else. Okay, fine. Who said I'm not allowed to say that? The answer is, there's a pasuk that tells you you're not allowed to testify falsely. So the Chachamim hold that the reason why we needed that pasuk is not to give you 2 times lashes, like Rabbi Meir says, but rather that's where it says it's asur. Over here is where we tell you the punishment that you get for it. That's the warning, here's the punishment. The Gemara says, Rabbi Meir, so according to Rabbi Meir now, so this is what we're going to do. We're going to play a ping pong match. Okay? I'm going to say I use this pasuk for that. But then what do you use this pasuk for? Because you disagree with me. Then you use this pasuk for that. Okay, well where do I get that law from? I use that pasuk for that. So it's just a ping pong match back and forth. So just imagine this like a zigzag. So what do we start with? The verse of you shall not bear false witness. Chachamim, what do you use that for? Rabbi Meir uses it to get you twice. 40 for that and 40 for Edim Zomimim. Rabbis, what do you use it for? You're not using it. Answer is, I use it as the warning for the punishment. Okay, Rabbi Meir, where did you find the warning before we gave you the punishment of Edim Zomimim? Rabbi Meir then says, okay, I'm not using that because I already used it to give you a second set of 40 lashes. The Gemara says, where do I learn that warning from? Amar Rabbi Yirmiyah, Nafkale, he learns it. Now the Gemara over here is really cheating because it doesn't give you the whole pasuk. Okay, so I just want you to look at the back column, the outside column on Dalet Amud Bet on the Hebrew side, the last of the 4 verses that's brought. It says a little Dalet on front of it. You see it? V'hanisharim V'hanisharim yishmeu v'yirau. So this is Devarim, chapter 19, verse 20. Chapter 19, verse 20 comes after chapter 19, verse. Excellent. Verse 19 is the verse that's telling you that if you did edim zomimim, we're gonna give you lashes. So if you want to find that pasuk, you could just turn back one page to Dalet Amud Aleph, and you shall do to him like he conspired to do to his friend, and you'll wipe out this evil from amongst your midst. And what does the pasuk then say? After you punish the edim zomimim, the nisharim and all those that are left behind that see this punishment. Okay, maybe the guy got killed, maybe the guy got malkut, but at least in the case where the guy got killed, why am I saying the guy got killed? Why am I giving you the case where the guy got killed here? Because it says, and the remaining ones. Would you use the remaining ones after you just gave one group with lashes? No. If you killed one guy, then everyone else is the ones that are left over, the remaining ones. Okay, so at least one of the cases, we know one of the punishments of edim zomin is if they try to get someone killed, then they get killed. What is the response to that? Says the pasuk, chapter 19, verse 20 now, and the leftovers, the remaining ones, yishma'u, will hear v'yirau, and they will fear, v'lo yosifu lasot od kadavar hazeh, and they will no longer do this wicked thing, b'kirbecha, amongst your midst. Says Rabbi Yirmiyahu, Rabbi Meir's source for the warning is where it says in the pasuk that the punishment is there in order that no one should do this wicked thing. What did the Torah just call the act of testifying as a ed zomem? A wicked thing. So you see the Torah said it's forbidden. So Rabbi Meir's source is here. Now it's a curious source, admittedly. Why? Because this warning is coming after the guys got punished.
How does that guy get warned?
No, so how does he get warned in the real world? Because we said there's no hatra'ah for edim zomimim. Remember?
Right.
He doesn't have to be warned.
No, but the warning is from the pasuk, no?
So the question is on a scriptural level, where's the warning before the punishment? Here. The problem is the warning is not before the punishment.
Right, the warning's after the punishment.
Warning is after the punishment. Or at least the warning is with the punishment. So I think what the Gemara is trying to say, and this is what I said to you, the Gemara is kind of cheating a little bit. Look at what it says. V'hanisharim yishmeu v'yirau, and the leftover ones will hear and they will fear. V'lo yosifu, and they will not continue. Look at the art scroll. ... Od. Look at the Gemara. Same Gemara says the same thing. It's not art scroll that did this. Bottom line of the Gemara. V'hanisharim yishmeu v'yirau v'lo yosifu od. They will not continue anymore. Does the pasuk say that? So the Gemara skips the words. Lo yosifu, they will not continue to do this. Lasot od kadavar razeh. Why is the Gemara skipping and giving you the word od in the middle? The Gemara is trying to tell you exactly the answer to this question. If I tell you you're going to get killed for doing this, and then you won't do this wicked thing again, the again is illustrating that the warning or the azhara is for the second time that this would have gotten done. That means that there was a pre-existing understanding. So the Gemara is learning it from the word, don't do this again. Meaning that it was already done once. And therefore, that's why the Gemara is accepting it according to the opinion of Rabbi Meir. The rabbis don't like that, because end of the day, sequentially, it's after. So they have their pasuk, they learn it out from the actual pasuk of testifying falsely. The Gemara says, V'Rabbanan, what about the rabbis then? They have a pasuk here too. It says the remaining ones will hear, they will become afraid, they won't do it anymore again. So you have an azhara. If you have this warning over here, you don't need the warning before. What are you going to do now with this extra pasuk? You see the zigzag? So the zigzag is very easy to follow if you're just kind of following it down the line. So what do the rabbis do with that pasuk of that they will hear and they will be afraid? The Gemara answers, they use that lahaskara for issuing an announcement. What do? They go out, they step outside after the punishment's been carried out, and they say, hear ye, hear ye. Okay? Rumpelstiltskin ben Isolabella was just murdered for the act of edim zomimim. They make a public announcement. The two edim that were killed. And what's the purpose of that? In order that it shouldn't be done again. But that's what they're learning. Leman yishmeu v'yirau. If they were punished what sound does the punishment make? The answer is, it doesn't, says the Rabbanan. The Rabbanan explain that there was an announcement that was made, okay? Rabbi Meir, so now Rabbi Meir, who used this verse not to tell you that it was an announcement, how does he know the announcement? Rabbi Meir, Hachraza miyishmeu v'yirau dafka, nafka. He learns it out from, they will listen and they will fear, and the extra part, that they won't do this again, that's the part that he uses for the warning with regards to this. Is that clear so far? Yes? All right. Let's carry on with the Mishnah.
It could be that the Chazak could be on the first case and then everybody else was supposed to know about it, and that's it.
Could be that what?
The Chazak, or the first time when he says, oh, it's the first time it happened. Okay, that's now you all know, and from now on,
The Azhara.
the Azara.
So remember, the Gemara, this idea of Azhara is not a real-time thing. It's not like first somebody, a real person in a real situation, they were warned not to do something, then they didn't listen, then we punished them. It's not a story. It's just that there seems to be a guiding principle that in the Torah, you never find the Torah just says, and anyone that does this gets killed. You never told me I wasn't allowed to do it. So the Torah has to tell you. It's like telling a story out of order. Right? The Torah needs to tell you first, or somewhere at least, even if not first. The Torah needs to tell you somewhere you're not allowed to do this, and then it could tell you that you're being punished. Right? It doesn't make sense to tell me that I'm being punished if I can't find anywhere in the Torah. The Torah never said I'm not allowed to do this. Okay? Let's continue. Says the Mishnah, Mishaleshim b'mamon. We separate into thirds the money. Now, if you remember, we explained that this Gemara is not being specific. When did we say you split the amount into thirds? When there are 3 witnesses. When there are 2 witnesses, how much do they split the payment into? 2. So if there's 4 witnesses, divided by 4. Okay? Says the Mishnah, Mishashim b'mamon, they divide the money that they tried to obligate the person. Ve'en mishashim b'makot. But we do not divide the makot. So in other words, let's say they said that this fellow owes 100 shekel. 2 people. Do they each pay 100 or do they pay each 50? Each pay 50. So that's mishashim and mamon. Now let's say, according to Rabbi Meir, in the same case, because they get malkut also, remember, and according to the Chachamim, in a case where they bore witness that the person was obligated makot. So let's say the punishment is makot. How much is the makot? 39 lashes. Okay? On that, says the Mishnah, we don't say, okay, let's divide, each one gets 20, or each one gets 19. We don't split the makot. Sorry? It's a mute, okay.
They get the full penalty.
They get the full makot, okay? So you don't split the makot. Ketzad, says the Gemara, how does this work? If they witnessed that the friend owed them 200 zuz, and it turns out that they were edim zomim, they divide the payment amongst the 2 people, and it becomes 100 each. If they said if they said he was liable to get malkut, right? However many they are, and they become edim zomim, each one of them gets 40 lashes. They don't get 20 lashes each. Says the Gemara, how do we know that there's this difference between the money that they split and the lashes which they do not split? Amar Abaye says, Ne'emar Rasha b'chayev malkiyot. It says Rasha in the pasuk where we administer lashes. Remember that pasuk? V'hayan, it will be in bin hakot Rasha. If this guy, this wicked person, is deserving of makot. So when it comes to makot, we find the word Rasha, which means someone that's wicked. V'ne'emar, and it says elsewhere, another place, Rasha also b'chayave mitot be'din. It also says that there's sometimes a Rasha, when it calls him a Rasha when you execute him for killing somebody. Malhalan en mitalemechza. Just like in the case of death, we don't say, you know what, 2 people, each one gets, we beat them half to death. We don't say that. There's no such thing as half of a death penalty. So too, Afkan in Malkut lemechza. Also over here, there would be no half of a Malkut death penalty. Now the commentators want to know, like, what kind of What kind of proof is this? By death, what's half of a death?
No death.
No, but there's no half of something. Malkut,
It's easier to divide it.
Malkut is a number. So you just split the number. So how could you bring a proof from something which is impossible to something which is possible? So we have a Gzerah Shavah. Gzerah Shavah means, let's say in this verse it says a word, and in this verse it says the same word. Whenever we have a tradition to make a Gzerah Shavah, which means a similar word analogy or connection, we'll say the halakha over here is like this, so too the halakha over here is like this. Okay, is that understood? So therefore, if you can't half kill him, you can't half the Makkot. And the question the commentators want to know is, what do you mean? You can't judge a case that's impossible from a case which is possible. Now, it's actually quite interesting. Again, without getting too deep into it, one opinion says that you're able to learn a possible case from an impossible case. So one opinion in the Makkot, in the Gemara, is that even if in one case it's possible, in the other case it's not impossible. In other case, you could still learn it. The Gzerah Shavah is coming to tell you that the laws are the same. Even though you could have said that over here, the reason why in that case we don't do it is because it's impossible. Once we have a Gzerah Shavah, the Gzerah Shavah makes them the same. Okay? So one opinion says you can learn possible from impossible. The other opinion says that you can learn possible from impossible by Gzerah Shavah, but not by anything else. So there's two ways of understanding this. One is we're learning this according to the opinion that possible and impossible are. He's going according to the opinion that says you can learn it. And the other opinion is, even the side that says possible from an impossible thing you can't learn, you can't. When it comes to Gzerah Shavah, which is the strongest of the teachings in the Torah, so there we'll compare even those cases. Okay? So therefore, that's the Gemara's answer. Rav Amar, sorry?
Can I take all of his money and then he's also like he's dead? If he gives all of his money?
No.
In this case, doesn't work.
No. We'll see in a second why. Or at least, let me rephrase. In a second, when we see what we see, perhaps you'll be able to understand why this is also the same as that. Okay? To be precise. Rava Amar Rava says, Abaya learned from the Gzerah Shavah. Okay? From the common denominator. Julian, you want to get Gemara? We have a pass some extra Gemara. There you go. All right, we're right now at the line right before the Mishnah on 5a1. Rava Amar, Rava says, Be'inan kasher zamam la'asot la'achiv. You know what we need? We need kasher zamam, like you tried to do to him. Veleka. And here, you wouldn't have it. What did they try to do to the guy? They tried to give, but how much? 40. If we split it, yeah, then you don't have what you tried to do to him. Right? What's the punishment? We're going to do to you what you try to do to him. What did you try to do to him? Give him 40. What are we going to give you now? 20? 20 is not what you try to do to him. Ask the Gemara, Yahachi, if that's true, Mamon Nami. Money also. You try to obligate him 200. How much are you making each one pay? 100. Answer the Gemara, Mamon mitzaref. Money combines together to create a number. 100 and 100 means that together, these two witnesses, they gave this man back what they were trying to take from him, 200. So 100 plus 100 means we did to them what they tried to do to him. Malkut lo mitzaref. You can't combine this Malkut and that Malkut because it's not the same thing. It doesn't add up to something because there isn't something that this person is getting from those Malkut. Now there's two ways to understand the Gemara. I'm going to give you first the logical way. Then the second way was a little bit of an aha moment. The first way is, when you talk about 100 plus 100, those 100 and 100 add up together to provide a specific amount. And the person is made whole by that amount. When it comes to the Malkut that you have and the Malkut that you have, so who are you paying those Malkut to? Not to me. I don't wind up with 40 Malkut together. Yours and yours don't, there's no unifying feature. of those Malkut and those Malkut. So 20 doesn't ever get added to 20 to produce 40. Does that make sense? Okay, that's the logical answer. But there's a second answer which is even more of an aha. God forbid, I don't know if you've ever got beaten up. Someone throws the first punch, you're all right. Second punch hurts much more because it's already hitting an area which was bruised. You keep hitting the person, the more cumulative the beating is, the more it hurts. What you tried to give me when you gave me 40 Makkot, which Makkot hurt the most? 38, 39, 40. Here, none of you felt the pain that you tried to visit on me. Because you got 20, and you got 20, but you only ever wound up with half of the hurt that you gave me. So there is no expression of that hurt manifest in the world to pay back for what you tried to do to me. That's a very interesting way of...
Find out with the money. So you wanted him to lose 200, but now you're only losing 100.
The point is not you didn't get it from you. The point is, it says v'asitem lo kasher zamam lasa. You do to him what you tried to do to his friend. Okay? What did they try to do to the friend?
To make him lose
200. Imagine we made them each give 200. How much would he wind up with?
Right, but so that's
400.
But that's my issue, though. We're looking at it at one place, the perspective of the people that are.
Yes.
And then the other place, we're looking at it from the effect on the guy who's not made whole.
So
I get it. Unjust enrichment, 400. He shouldn't be getting 400. But
no, it's not. It's less unjust enrichment. It's not about the fact it's not fair that he makes more. That's not what we're saying. We're saying is that Torah only ever commanded us to do to them what they tried to do to him. What they tried to do to him was make him in the hole for 200 zuz, right? That's what they tried to do. So what are we going to make them do? We're going to make him pay him back 200 zuz. We can't make them pay him back 400 zuz and say that that's what they tried to do to him.
they could give a fine to the court or something. So they should feel the same 200 loss that they tried to impose on him. That's how I look at it.
So here's the second point. And this is, I think you're saying a logic, but you're saying it incorrectly. You're saying maybe we'd look at it from the perspective of this guy, but the camera would have to keep shifting perspectives. Why? Because if you're looking at it from the perspective of what I lose, then it works the same on both ends. But then the law is not the same. If you look at a perspective from the guy who's being made whole, he's not being made whole by the Malkut. The Malkut have nothing to do with him. So you can't have the camera shoot from the mazik, from the nizak, from the person who was damaged perspective. Listen carefully. But really maybe, that's what the Gemara is trying to answer. That Malkut is not paid to you, as we said many times already. Malkut is paid to God. So therefore, these 20 and these 20 don't add up. You understand? At least with me, the 100 and 100, now we have 200. Right? Because money adds up to money to provide more money. What does more Malkut get you? Nothing. The restorative power, and this is really what I always felt the answer to Gemara should be, is why do we give you Malkut ever? Kapara. The number of Malkut which gives Kapara is what? 39 or whatever you can handle. Not half of 39, that's nothing. That's neither here nor there. So it doesn't help me with my Kapara to God that you got 20. And it doesn't help you with your Kapara to God.
I see what you're saying, but I still, if you're trying to make someone lose a certain amount and you're only losing half that amount as a punishment, it's not the same.
I think you're missing the point. When we're talking about what you tried to do to him, that's a good logic. The Malkut are not what you tried to do to him. Do you understand that point?
Yes.
So we keep trying to kind of hit back, well, how do we see this? How do we see this? When it comes to lashes is an irrelevant point because it's not between you and him. So it's irrelevant. Now, I had a different question. Ready? And this answer answered my question. We know that we give the guy what you're supposed to give him. How about if the guy that they were going to give Malkut to, he's 95 years old. How many lashes would they have given him if he was found guilty? 4.
1.
Do we each get 4? No.
40.
Why? What you tried to do to him.
Because it's a knas.
So there's 2 answers to this question. This answer is very simple. It has nothing to do with that guy. We're not trying to make you get his malkut. That's not what we're trying to do. We're saying once you try to visit upon him this, the punishment from you to Hashem is malkut. The punishment of money is giving the guy. The punishment of malkut is between you and Hashem. So therefore, all these numbers and all these counts are irrelevant.
So the money is not a deterrence thing. You're not trying to deter people from,
So we already had a machloket of Tanaim. Either it's compensation or it's a fine, right? But in either scenario, that money is going to this person, okay? With the malkut, I don't own your malkut.
Right, I get that.
Yeah, I'll give you a crazy example. What happens if the guy says, "Thank you very much, I don't want the 200"? Could he be mochel them from paying 200 zuz?
I don't think so. No.
Absolutely, he could.
Oh, wow.
It's his money. Do whatever he wants.
It's like not pressing charges, or
Yeah, it's kind of exactly the same thing.
Could he forgive the malkut?
no.
For sure not. You see the difference? They're completely different things.
Is it like a
Now, wait a minute. Let's say we go according to the opinion that the money is not compensation. It's a fine. Could he forgive them the money?
I don't think so.
No, he can't.
The judge is
Again, so if you look at the money as a fine, the fine is similar to the lashes. But if you look at it as money, they just operate on two different highways, and you can't really ask from one to the other. And I think maybe the Gemara, when it says this one adds up and that one doesn't add up, that's what they mean to say, that the 200 are now coming together into my pocket. Now 100 and 100 in my pocket together make up 200. Where do those 20 and those 20 lashes, where do they sit together that they could add up to 40? You see, that's the nikuda. Okay,
It's also just a maximum, right?
a maximum, yes.
So it's more.
Either way, either one of them would get the max that they could handle. I wouldn't imagine, though, that neither one of them could handle 20. Although, if it was the case, then they wouldn't get more. Why? Because the logic is not less than 40. The logic is that you cannot kill your brother with malkut. Because the punishment was lashes, not death. See? So in any scenario where malkut is being levied, we would always back off from what we think the person couldn't handle any more of.
Who made the barometer of 40 being death?
The Torah.
The Torah.
Oh, it did.
No, the Torah said that 40 is malkut. However, the Gemara, we're going to get to it, Elohen Alokin, where we learn how do we know how much to back off from the 40. All right? I love examples like this in the Gemara, where you're learning the Gemara, and there's so many questions. And the questions are not because we're not getting what the Gemara says. It's because the Gemara expected you to literally have your car jump the lane into another highway. And all of a sudden understand that these two things that all this time we were saying are the same. Nope, not the same thing. And in the answer, they're expecting you to change your model of thinking. That's really what happens here. All right? Mamon mitzaref. Okay.
Rabbi,
Yes.
Are these Domimine witnesses that receive this penalty, did they successfully defraud the victim, or is it whether or not it doesn't matter if they lied?
I want to make sure I understand the word successfully.
In other words,
Because the Gemara, we said earlier, right in the beginning, we said, if the case is closed, if the guy paid the money, if the guy got killed, if they gave him the lashes, then they don't get punished. Not because they don't deserve to be punished. How much more so do they deserve to be punished if their false testimony actually got you the damage? But because it's not enough, the kapara. We say this we have to leave to Hashem.
so the victim never actually, in this case, never lost the money that they're paying.
Does not lose the money. And in fact, what you just said is the source of the opinion that says this has to be a fine. How could this be monetary compensation if you didn't lose anything?
Oh, right.
That's the proof of that opinion. Okay.
The question. So
Thank you.
I can understand somebody coming to say, hey, Bob owes my brother $40. Right? I can understand this if I'm a conspiring witness. I have a motive. I want Bob to pay my brother $40. I can't understand why was that Bob needs to get whipped. What do I have in it?
You're asking why human beings do terrible things. Okay. They got paid. They hate the guy. They want to humiliate him.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I was okay.
Yeah, probably in the Musar, we would make sure to let them know that you guys are really terrible. There was no gain for you to get this guy to be whipped, and look at what you did. All right. Says the Mishnah. Says that we're starting the new Mishnah now. En Edim Nasim Zomim. Edim are not made Zomimim ad shiazimu et atzman, until they are there's a hazama on them themselves. Now that sounds interesting. So let's just recap because we have a couple new faces here. The law of Edim Zomim is when two witnesses come along and they say, we saw this guy borrow money from that guy. We saw this guy be obligated to get lashes. We saw this guy kill someone, therefore he deserves to be killed. So they're saying testimony about a certain person that they saw him on this day, in this location, commit this crime, or whatever they're bearing witness on. As they're saying this, before it actually gets to fruition, but the Beit Din accepts their testimony, all right, comes in the second set of witnesses, and they say, how could you be bearing witness in this court case? You were with us on that night in Reserve Cut, okay? You were not down here on the street in Lexington. You were with us downtown. You could not possibly have seen this. That's the literal case of Edim Zomim. So two witnesses say, we saw X. Two other witnesses come along and say, you could not have seen X. You were with us in another location. In that case, the Pasuk says, we do to them what they tried to do to the other people. Okay? That's the classic case. So the Mishnah over here says it has to be ad shiazimu et atzman, that they testified to make them specifically zomimim. We'll see exactly what that means. Says the Gemara, says the Mishnah, Ketzad, what's the case? Amru, me'edim anu bi'ish ploni sharag et hanefesh. They say, we testify that Reuven killed Shimon. Amru lahem, hech atem me'idim. The other witnesses, the edim that are coming to be mezim, these edim zomim, they come in and they say, "Heyech atem me'idim." How could you make this testimony? Share neherag ze, o hahoreg ze haya imanu, o to'ayom makom ploni. What if they don't say you, i.e., witnesses, were with us in Reserve Cut? They say the guy you say was killed was with us in Reserve Cut. The victim was with us. Or they say, the murderer was with us. Not you, the witnesses are with us. Then that is not edim zomimim. En elu zomimim. These are not considered zomimim. Now, can anyone tell me why these are not considered zomimim?
They're not trying to undo. They're not trying to get those two witnesses. They're just saying no. The victim was with us.
So therefore, what?
Go after the first two guys.
So what are we left with in this case?
Discredit the witnesses.
We have
You don't need to disprove them.
we have two witnesses against two witnesses. Anytime we have two witnesses against two witnesses, what happens? I say you owe him the money. He says he doesn't owe him the money. What do we do with the two witnesses now? Nothing. Nobody pays anything. Beit Din doesn't know what to do. So your witnesses cancel out these witnesses. That's edim amakhishim zuezu, that contradict one another. When I say that the guy you say was murdered was with me, or when the guy that you say was murderer was with me, I'm not making you edim zomimim. I'm saying that your testimony is incorrect. That's edim that are contradicting testimony, not edim that are making other edim zomimim witnesses. Aval, yes?
Might be a silly question, but what if there's just a never-ending chain of two witnesses that keep coming?
We're going to get there. Excellent. We're going to get there. Two witnesses come and say, you couldn't have said that, you were with us. Then the other two witnesses come and say, you couldn't have been in Reserve Cut because you were with us. How about if you have zomim? How do we deal with that? We'll see.
Trials.
And tribulations. Okay. Amru lahem. Aval amru lahem. But if they said to them, how could you bear witness? You with us on that day. Those are zomin. V'neheragin al piem. And we're going to kill these witnesses based on their testimony of the second witnesses. So first witnesses try to get Reuven killed by falsely testifying that he murdered somebody. The second set of witnesses come along and say, you guys are liars, you're murderers, you're trying to kill this guy in court, right? You were with us on that day. What's the halakha? The punishment is, we kill those witnesses. Now remember, edim zomin is a big chidush. It's a big, what's a chidush? It's a novel idea. Why is it novel? Because what the heck is the difference? In either scenario, I'm testifying falsely. How come when you're coming and testifying that the murderer was with you, nothing happens to anybody, and the witnesses cancel each other out? And when I testify that you were with me, now you're getting killed for this.
Could it be mistaken identity or good faith, meaning?
No, because the same mistaken identity could be here too.
It's more likely that the
No,
Zomi
if
have
you are
bad
outright
faith.
lying and saying you were with us, you are outright lying. You were caught with your pants down.
1 minute, but now the same thing.
But no, he's saying, I saw this person and he wasn't there. I thought he was there. I thought he was there, but I got it wrong. So I didn't, meaning as a witness.
Yeah.
No one came and said I was outright lying.
You're saying maybe the reason is because they're able to have some sort of get out clause and say they made a mistake.
You have more benefit.
You'll have to see.
Benefit of a doubt.
You'd have to see what the cross examination looks like in Beit Din to realize how far fetched that is.
Wow, really?
Yeah, because it's not just like, did you make him out on the grassy knoll when he shot JFK? Let's look at the grainy videotape. Was it Lee Harvey Oswald? It's not like that. It's where was he standing? What angle were you standing? Where were did he have a mark on his nose? What clothing was he wearing? It's like grilling. The level of mistake would have to be so
Based on your logic,
far-fetched.
then there should be no differentiation.
That's my point.
Right.
My point is that Edim Zomin
there
is a massive chidush. It makes no sense that there should be a difference. Because in either scenario, and by the way, what if we could absolutely, unequivocally prove, in the case of Edim Zomin, right, that this was not, that they were not there,
If you can.
but not
They said
that they were with me.
Wow. Meaning,
So if I figure out a way to make you an unequivocal liar,
Yeah.
still the halakha would not be Edim Zomin. So your answer is the difference between them is one is shadow of a doubt, one is for sure. What if I could figure out a way to illustrate that it is absolutely certain that you were not there?
meaning that for sure you were a bad faith actor, and it's not that you made a mistake.
But it's not, and it's for sure you didn't make a mistake.
I
Exactly.
know that, but you weren't with me.
Correct. Like, I'll give you an example.
Right.
I'm testifying that I was there when you were born, and your testimony that it happened in October of 1973 is impossible because you were not born yet. That is unequivocally lying. No way out of that. The guy is testifying that he saw something happen before he was born. But the only witness that he's bearing witness to is not that you were with me on the day that you say that you were there, just that you could not have been there.
Right.
That's not Edim Zomin. Okay?
I have a question.
Yeah.
How come previously 2 canceled out 2, but now 2 doesn't cancel out 2?
That is the question.
The argument.
The chidush means something that is very hard to understand why it's the case. And therefore you need a pasuk in the Torah to explicitly tell you we're going to make this exclusion in the case of Edim Zomin. Now, we have a couple people who this is their first class. You came perfect timing. Why? Because the Gemara, the Masechet that we learned, really started in a haphazard way. It started like this. Because the Masechet is, the whole perek is about witnesses, Edim Zomin. And we started by telling you, when are Edim Zomin, not Edim Zomin? When did they not get the punishment that they tried to impose on somebody else? This is the first Mishnah that actually told us, straight out, what Edim Zomin are. So we had to wait 4 Mishnayot into the chapter, right, to even find out what is an Edim Zomin. This is the Mishnah that's telling you what it is and what it isn't. Not if you get a reward, not if you get the onesh, not the onesh. Sorry?
Before his kids said, "Ein ha'edim nesim zomi."
And it was coming off of Masechet Sanhedrin, like we said in the Gemara. Okay, so let's continue. V'nei ragin al piem. And in that case, they would get killed based on the testimony, on the second testimony. Let's continue. Ba'u acherim. Here you go. Ready? Ba'u acherim. Ve'ezimum. Okay? So now we have a case where a third set of witnesses came and made the second set Edim Zomin. Ba'u acherim ve'ezimum. Now a fourth set of witnesses comes along and says about the third set of witnesses, they were Edim Zomin. Afilu mea, says the Gemara. Even if there's 100. Kulam yaregu. Any one of them that we wind up discrediting for Edim Zomim is murdered. Why?
Wait,
Let's just kill the whole town.
Congo line.
Hold it. Dun, 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 dun. Wow. You know what is happening here? You know what the answer is? The answer is it's actually quite simple. Every single one of them is trying to do the same thing. So Edim number one, we're trying to kill this guy, right? And they weren't there. Comes the set and they say, these guys are liars. They were not there. They were with us. Okay, right? What just happened now? These guys now became murderers, conspiring witnesses to an act of murder. Who are they going to murder? Not the guy by getting killed in Beit Din, the witnesses by getting killed in Beit Din. So now, when these guys come and they make dim zomi, everybody is an exact photocopy of the guy before. You're attempting to murder somebody through testimony, and you were not where you said you were, which would have caused them to be murdered.
But is the original guy let off? Like, meaning, so, like, if these two guys say, if two Zomim came against two witnesses, and then Zomim came against those two Zomim, the guy who they tried to kill, what happened to him?
What do you mean?
The first guy that got accused.
So
From the first set, got discredited.
it will
on the
depend.
second
You
set.
need to follow the trail. So in other words, what are we left with at the end of this? So at the end of it, if we wound up getting the guys that got the guys, then you're back to where you were. In other words, the law keeps changing. Watch. Group number one makes this guy a murderer. Group number two exonerates him. Group number three makes these guys out, which makes these guys on, which makes this guy guilty again. So each time, as it moves, it's like a giant seesaw. And it just keeps seesawing all throughout all of the various people,
But is
right?
the common denominator one guilty party at any time? Meaning whether it's the fifth, the
No.
15th, or all?
No, all of the guilty parties,
All of it.
all of the guilty parties wind up being killed.
Based on who testifies last? Is that how it ends?
Well, we're going to see. We're going to get when we get to the Gemara, we're going to already
Why would
see.
the last guy come if he knows what happened to the first
We'll
man?
already see. We'll already see. And by the way,
I'm already.
hold on a second. And by the way, I just want to say one thing. Your question is a great question, except that it's not taking into account that is exactly the ingredients of the very first Edim Zomim case. Well, just because you came second, now I get killed?
I don't like it either way.
Right? So in other words, when the Torah tells it to you in the first time, that is the prototype of Edim Zomim. All we did was, we just said that Edim Zomim do not have to be on an act of murder. It could also be on a situation where you're trying to get the guy killed in Beit Din. Okay? Comes Rabbi Yehuda says something really interesting. Says Rabbi Yehuda, I don't like this. Rabbi Yehuda Omer, Istati Tizu. This is a sketch right here. It can't be that this guy saw this guy and then that guy saw this guy and then that guy saw this. What are the odds of all this happening? All of these people are working together. All the people trying to exonerate are on one team. All the people trying to exonerate. These guys are on the Gambino payroll. These guys are on the, what's the other mafia? Yeah, family? Capone family, right? So all of these people and all of these people, they're all sketches. The only scenario here is the minimal possible scenario that we would look at, which is the murderer, the witnesses, and then the murder on those witnesses, and the witnesses on those witnesses. So we would keep it as a one standalone case of Edim Zomim, whereby the middle case, the first witnesses would get killed, and we would not trust anyone else trying to undo the Zomimim of the Zomimim of the Zomimim of the Zomimim. Now, what I don't know is, we'll have to see when we get to the Gemara, is Rabbi Yehuda saying this because there's a million cases? Or would Rabbi Yehuda say this even if there's just one extra set? So in other words, let's assume for 1 second, the first set of witnesses are legit. Come the second set of witnesses to Edim Zomim them, and they're paid off. So what's to stop any set of Edim Zomimim trying to tank any witnesses for any reason if there's no one that could get them?
So Rabbi Yehuda's ruins justice system.
Unless he only didn't allow when there's tons of them. But obviously it could happen once. And I'll even prove it to you. We'll have to come to this idea. We'll have to see that. And I'll even prove it. There's a famous idea that says that, and we'll come to this in the Gemara, There's a famous idea that says that in order for testimony to be believable, it needs to be possible for that testimony to have hazama. Why? Because if there's no hazama, is edim zomin. It needs to be that we could get you in trouble, that you could get punished for lying if you lied. Because if there's no punishment for lying, how do we know? There's nothing telling us that this has to be true. The only thing that tells us that it's true is that it was edut, sheyachol la'azima, that you could undo with edim zolmin. So it has to be, no, it doesn't mean it has to be other people there, but the testimony has to be the type of testimony that could be undone if it was a lie. If the testimony could not be undone if it was a lie, then how could we believe it? There's no ramifications. You see? So as an example, let's say you have a witness come to court, and this witness is under the witness protection program. Nobody could touch him, nobody could question him. His testimony loses its validity because it's not possible to cross-examine, it's not possible to challenge, right? If Rabbi Yehuda says this about one set more, then the very Edim Zomim themselves are giving a testimony which is Efshar Lazima, that cannot be Zomemd. So how can we believe their testimony? Wow. You hear? So we'll come already to that in the Gemara. Baruch Adonai Le'olam. Amen ve'amen.